I practiced NoFap and then semen retention for 3 years, and although I experienced some amazing benefits, I also experienced some pretty negative downsides that, to be quite honest, I haven't heard anyone talk about. So if you're thinking about starting NoFap, you're gonna need to watch this video so you know what you're getting yourself into. What even is NoFap though? I mean, when most people hear it, they obviously think of someone just not fapping, but at the same time, it's way deeper than that. To be honest, it's kind of become like a movement of sorts for most men now. So NoFap, to someone who doesn't know much about it, may just be not fapping, but to people who've done it or at least tried it, they know it's not just not fapping. It's something you can use to eliminate anxiety, overcome depression, create and attract better relationships with guys and girls. But more than all that, it's something you can use to change your life. I mean, as I said in the intro, I practiced NoFap for 3 years, and in those 3 years I was practicing, I was literally able to change my life and find my purpose, which has led me to this point in time. So I say all this because I really do want you to understand how powerful this can be for you, but you have to do it correctly. Because if you go into this half-assed, or you go into it without a guide that's helping you along the way, NoFap can be dark, potentially dangerous, and bring you negative side effects that I call the dark side of NoFap. Speaking of the dark side of NoFap, one of the first negative effects you might experience is the effect of abstinence. So it's actually very easy to get into the habit of being completely abstinent while practicing NoFap. I mean, really just think about it. You're literally telling yourself no every single time you get the urge to fap. And honestly, this can turn into a negative habit very quickly. And I'm speaking from experience here because this one affected me a lot. Because while you're practicing, if you're successful at NoFap, you can very easily just become completely abstinent after a while. And I'm not saying that it makes you want to become abstinent. I'm saying that because you're not jerking off, you're not watching porn, it's very easy for that sexual side of you to almost get turned off metaphorically, especially if you're not interacting with the opposite sex often. When you first start NoFap, for the first couple of months, you'll likely be the horniest you've ever been in your life. And you'll also probably be fighting off the urges to watch porn. But after that phase, in all honesty, your horniness subsides quite a bit. And you enter this kind of calm, focused state, where all the benefits people usually think of experiencing while practicing NoFap come from. But if in this stage, you're not interacting with any woman, you can get in the habit of just becoming this weird, sexless individual, and not really having any desire at all to do anything with the opposite sex. Which, I mean, this is crazy to say, but I literally remember at one point, while I was practicing NoFap, and I don't remember what exact point this was, but you know me, I was busy grinding, probably working on something I was trying to achieve, and I literally looked down at myself, and I'm like, damn, I don't even have a use for this anymore. And that's when I realized I needed to start talking to some girls, like, immediately. Because by that point, I was so in the habit of saying no to myself when I got the urge to fap, that it's almost like this habit of saying no transferred to girls. So after I had that thought, I realized that I was also subconsciously avoiding environments where girls were in. And when I did just so happen to be in environments with them, I was just awkward and I didn't know what to do. Because I was so in the habit of resisting being horny for so long, that I now had to unlearn this habit so I could just start talking to girls normally again. And I say all this because the mistake I was making was that although I was finally successfully practicing NoFap for a good amount of time, which is obviously great, I was also subconsciously transferring my habit to not acting on the urge to interact with women. And I know everyone online says that you get more attention from women while practicing NoFap, and you do, but that doesn't just mean that girls are gonna fall into your lap, like you're not gonna have to put any effort in. If you want something to happen, you still have to make stuff happen the majority of the time. So when you're going into this, just make sure that after a couple of months, when you hit the phase where you're no longer getting the urges to watch porn and fap, to put yourself out there. Unless you want to become a priest. Another thing you want to look out for while practicing NoFap is the pressure. And it's really interesting because I don't see much people bringing this up, even though everyone who practices NoFap will experience this. And what do I mean by the pressure? I mean the type of pressure that you're going to experience when you start getting on your long streaks of not fapping. Let's say you go for 30 days without fapping, and you're super proud of yourself, but in a moment of weakness, you give in to your urges, and you watch porn and jerk off. The moment you finish, you get that post-nut clarity, and you're like, what the f did I just do? And you get mad at yourself, you get depressed, your self-esteem is shot, and you feel terrible while realizing that you're now back at day one and all the hard work you put in before means nothing now. And in the back of your mind, you're like, well, I mean, I already fucked up. I may as well take a break this week, fap some more, and try again next week. And the cycle repeats itself. If you're experiencing this, I actually have a video to help you get out of this cycle that you can click on screen now. This cycle and this pressure can really fuck with your mental health. And the crazy thing is some people never get out of this cycle, or just end up giving up altogether because they keep failing. And if you practice NoFap, or at least tried, you're probably like, yeah, I've been there before, or I'm still there. I'd been through the same cycle many times over before I was finally able to succeed and kick the habit for good. So I know exactly what that feeling feels like. But what I realized was that the longer that I kept track of my streak, at the same time I was also feeling more pressure to keep the streak going. It was almost like this constant state of anxiety, like what if I mess up? So the way I was actually able to overcome this was by not counting my days at all. It's a bit counterintuitive, I know, but by doing this I was able to finally relieve myself of all that pressure. And if I did mess up, I didn't see it as going back to day one because of this. I saw it as me continuing the natural process of continuing to learn how to succeed at NoFap. And I started to take time right after I messed up to ask myself, why'd I mess up here? What did I do wrong? And how can I improve for next time so I don't mess up this way again? So if you're going to practice NoFap or you're practicing NoFap, stop focusing on the days that you're on a streak. Focus on fixing the things that are causing you to want to fap and replace them with things that don't. Now, if you have any brief questions, put them in the comments below. And if you're really serious and you want me to personally help you out with any issues you may be having in your life, sign up for one-on-one coaching with me. Also, make sure to download my free ebook that I made to specifically help you navigate and understand the 10 secret stages of success you'll 100% be going through on the way to achieving your goals. You can find the links to both of these in the description or the pinned comment down below. Now, I'm sure if you've done any amount of research on NoFap before this video, you've probably heard that on NoFap you get increased energy. And in my experience, this was 1000% the case. Personally, for me, I had so much energy, so much motivation, and so much passion to work towards my life and improve my goals. I mean, because of all this energy, I was able to transform my life in just 3 years, which is crazy to be honest. But having increased energy isn't always good, especially if you're using that increased energy for things that hurt you. What I want you to realize is that if right now you have a lot of bad habits, let's just say you have a drinking problem, you're overweight, and you're depressed. If you go on NoFap and you start to experience increased energy, where do you think all that increased energy is going to go to? It's going to go to your bad habits. And those bad habits will actually get worse if you don't intend to change them. NoFap isn't just going to solve all your issues immediately or on its own. In fact, it's going to do the opposite. It's going to make your issues so apparent to you, to the point where they're literally in your face and unavoidable. And the reason for this is because NoFap is really just an amplifier of energy at the end of the day. So everything going on in your life, good and bad, will become amplified. Most people who do end up practicing NoFap though, do also want to fix their problems. So the increased energy actually ends up helping them fix their problems naturally. But you should know that if you're planning to go on NoFap and you have issues that you're currently avoiding, you won't be able to avoid them on NoFap. And if you do, they'll get a lot worse the longer you try and avoid them. So you need to make sure that before you start NoFap, that you're actually committed to working on yourself and solving your issues. Because if you don't do this, you'll likely just end up making your life a lot worse rather than better. And I know at this point in the video, you might be a little nervous about starting NoFap, but despite these potential negative effects I've listed, I still highly recommend you try out NoFap for yourself. When you're first starting, it's definitely not an easy process, but if you can apply the things learned in this video and you're actually able to succeed at NoFap, I can guarantee you, in just a year from now, your life will be completely different. But I'm curious, what have you guys personally experienced on NoFap, or what have you heard about it? And how long have you been practicing it? Let me know in the comments down below. And while you're at it, if you want to hear about 6 amazing secret benefits I experienced on NoFap, make sure to check out this video.